Hello, welcome to the Elder Law Report with McIntyre Elder Law. I'm attorney Samantha Gordon, joined by attorney Jane Dearwester. Hey, Jane.
Good morning.
I'm coming from our Charlotte office, and Jane is coming from our Hendersonville office. So today we are going to talk about what happens when you probate without a will. So first and foremost, what is probate? Probate, the way that I like to explain it, is an ugly court proceeding where you have to ask the court to distribute your assets pursuant to whether you have a will or you do not have a will. And you have to pay the court money to submit documents and to allow you to make those distributions. It can be a very costly process, a very time-consuming process. In some of the bigger counties in North Carolina, it can take up to a year to 2 years to do probate. So if you can avoid it, it would probably be best specifically if you have any type of minor beneficiaries, if you have multiple properties, if you have, just assets that you want to have streamlined if something were to happen to you. There's different ways that you can avoid probate. But today we're going to talk about an instance where if you have not set up an estate plan and you do have to go through probate and you do not have a will, which would be the guide to tell the court where your assets go. So Jane, let's talk a little bit about intestate succession. So intestate means that someone did not have a will. So if you just want to maybe touch on what intestate succession is and why we don't want that to happen.
Yes, this is, I always say the legislators in Raleigh have figured out what to do with your stuff if you don't make a plan, right? So to a certain extent, it's what you think it would be. There are special designations made for your surviving spouse, for your children, for next of kin. But what a lot of people, I think, don't understand, and I have a client who's kind of suffering through this right now, especially in the case of married couples, people assume that when they die, even if they don't have a will, their spouse gets everything.
Nope.
That is absolutely not true. And I can't believe, honestly, how many people, actually I can believe it, because I understand why people think that, but it's a very scary misunderstanding, because if you don't make a plan, again, then the surviving spouse, the person who's left behind, they not only have to deal with this long, lengthy, expensive court process, but they don't just get the house automatically. They don't just get all your stuff automatically. And it can really lead to some just serious issues. They're already going through grief of losing their spouse, and having to deal with this is a lot, just in general. And so intestate succession, if we would print out the statutes, I think they go about 12 pages to describe if you die with a spouse but no children, or you die with a spouse and children and your parents are living. A lot of people don't know your parents stand to inherit from you under certain circumstances. So what you've got to do when you're going through probate with intestate succession is figure out which sub part you fit into. So are you married? Did you have children? Did any of those children predecease you? It's kind of a formula to go through, and then to also find out what assets have to go through that probate estate.
Yeah. And it's a parenthetical line is what it's called. So all the way down to your third cousin could inherit if you don't have parents, siblings, nieces, nephews. Like it's just, someone that you don't even know possibly can inherit from your estate. And in addition to that, if you have any minor children, then what's going to happen is a guardianship would have to be opened up for those minor children to actually inherit any assets. There's different ways, that you can handle an estate like that. But if you have to go through probate and you don't have a will, in addition to that, the person that's going to step up to be your administrator, if there's anyone else that also has the authority to be your administrator, they have to renounce so that this one person can then become the administrator. And if there's nobody that is going to step up to be the administrator, it's possible that a public administrator, someone appointed by that county, could be the administrator of your estate. There's many different ways that you don't have control over what happens because you did not have a guide to the courts to tell them what you actually want it to happen. So just making sure that you have an estate plan in place that says, hey, this is what I want. If something happens to my spouse, I want everything to go to my surviving spouse. If something happens to both of us, then we want everything to go to our kids. Or we only have dogs, we want everything to go to our dogs. Like whatever it is, you got to have a plan in place that actually says what you want to ensure that that's actually what happens. It also makes the process so much easier for your loved ones as well.
Yeah, easier, cheaper. And, there's a scenario where sometimes we have people come in or ask questions when we're out in the community doing educational seminars about what if I don't really have next of kin? If I'm like the last in my family, if everybody has passed away, well, theoretically, in that scenario, if you truly are the last and no next of kin can be identified, your stuff literally goes to the state of North Carolina. It's called Nishjeet. It goes to the state. And as Sam was explaining, if you don't designate someone and no one in your family comes forward or wants to serve as the administrator of your estate, some complete stranger is going to be in charge of going through all your bank accounts, doing an estate sale of all your forks and knives and things that you've collected over your life. So, all of this to say what happens when you don't have a will. I hope this is pinging all of you who are listening to this to say, oh, I don't want this. This is very avoidable. You do not want this process. It's slow. It's expensive. As Sam was saying, you don't have any control. Your family doesn't have control over what to do next. And not to mention, it allows any creditors you have to get at your assets as well, going through the probate estate.
Yep. And if you don't have any assets that are going through your estate, and maybe you just have a piece of real property and there's creditors out there, they file claims against your estate, they could bring in that real property to sell your home to pay those claims.
Yes.
So you really want to have a strategic and methodical plan in place that really, says what's going to happen. And maybe we want to avoid probate so that this doesn't even have to be something that your loved ones have to deal with. We would love for, whoever's listening to meet with you and to have a free consultation so that we can really talk about estate planning, how to avoid probate, and how to protect your assets. You can visit our website at www.mcelderlaw.com/scheduling. Thanks so much, Jane.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Please don't wait till it's